Left off Nun Amid Beis. Okay. The Mishnah quoted 3 cases. We have a case where a person is Makadish 2 women with a pruta. That means each one is he is giving a pruta, which is kesef, but each one is receiving a half a pruta. So Makadish b'kesef. He says he gives one. He says, "I'm giving a pruta to both of you women. You represent, and she represents both of them." Ein Kodeshes. Subsequently, he sends gifts. Right. So the Gemara says the Mishnah says maybe the gifts are for the sake of kiddushin. They're not for the sake of kiddushin. Ein Kodeshes. What about if he gives one woman post mishav pruta? He gives her money, post mishav pruta, or an item, and then it subsequently sends gifts. Ein Kodeshes. Then you have a case, a kotnus makadish. There's no such thing as a minor marrying, but he went through the motions of marriage. Now when he becomes an adult, he sends a gifts with 2 people. 2 people deliver the gifts. Ein Kodeshes. So what do we need 3 cases? We already said that although the original marriage is not a marriage, the gifts which follow, even if they're delivered with witnesses, we say it's not being given for the sake of kiddushin. It's being given as a gift. I mean, even if the person would say that was my intent, but since the way it's perceived it's not, that's dvarim shebelev dvarim. Doesn't mean anything what he says. I mean, no, he didn't verbalize it. We didn't verbalize it. So the Gemara says, so what do we need 3 cases? The Gemara says, you would think the first case where he gave kesef, so the man himself believes the first kiddushin is an act of kiddushin, so the subsequent gifts are unrelated to marry her, because he believes the first act he did was an act of kiddushin. So therefore, the Mishnah has told me the second case that even if he gets post mishav pruta, where it's not a ma'aseh kiddushin, but since a person doesn't differentiate between more or less, he believes that's kiddushin. Then you have the third case where everybody knows that the kiddushin of a cotton, the marriage of a cotton, is nothing. So therefore, you'd say definitely. So why is he sending gifts? He's sending gifts for marriage. We say no. That since he went through the motions of kiddushin, it's al das. He's sending it to her not for the sake of kiddushin, but because he was previously married to her. But not because the original marriage was not a marriage, this should be the marriage. That's the Gemara. That's what we're holding in the Gemara. Okay? Now we're holding over here. Itmar. 2, 4, 6, 8. 10 lines down. Last word of the 10th line. Itmar. Rafuna Amar. Choshen l'savlonos. Rafuna says if a man sends gifts to his wife, we have to be concerned, maybe the gifts that were sent with the 2 people, that were given to her in presence of 2 people, it's an act of kiddushin. It's an act of kiddushin. Cheno marabo, choshen l'sivlonos. We have to be concerned, so therefore what would be? It's a sofi kiddushin. Sofi mukudeshes. Sofi mukudeshes. Omar Rabba. So Rabba is one of the opinions who says, choshen l'sivlonos. We have to be concerned, maybe the gifts were given for marriage. Therefore, let's say now another person would marry her. So both of them have to give a gift because she's Safra Kudeshes to both of them. Wait, so Rabbi asked on himself. Omar Rabbi Mosviven Ashmaitzin. He says, we're able to refute what I said from the Mishnah. Exactly what you're saying. Right? Because this is Afapi. The Mishnah says, Api Shesholach Sivlonos. Although he sends her the gifts, La'achmikan, afterwards, Enim Kudeshes. And here I'm saying that when you send the gifts, there's a possibility that it may be for the sake of kiddushin. The Mishnah says definitely not. So the Mishnah seems to refute what I'm saying. That's what Rabbi is saying himself. Although I said that, the Mishnah seems to refute what I'm saying. Amalei Abayis, Abayis, the student of Rabbi, says this, Rebbe, no. It's not comparable. The case of the Mishnah and what you're saying, they're not comparable one to the other. Hosam Kiduktani Taima. The Mishnah explains exactly why the gifts that are given later are not for the sake of kiddushin. Why? That since the person believes that the original marriage was a marriage, so when he sends the gifts afterwards, he's sending the gifts to his wife. He's not sending them to correct what didn't happen the first time. Here we're speaking with he was never married to this woman. So Rashi says the important Rashi, and Tosas asks on Rashi. Rashi says, Choshel Sivlonos, Misha Shidech Beisha. Here, there was a shidduch. They're already engaged to be married, two people, not previously married, engaged to be married. V'nisratza, and she agreed to marry him previously. And subsequently, the kodam b'sholach sivlonos beidim. A woman says to a man, I'm agreeable to marry you. Okay, now there's a hiatus. A day later, he sends a gift in the presence of two witnesses. They don't say to the woman, we're the agents of the husband to marry you with these gifts. And they deliver a gift the next day. Choshin shema kiddushin hein. Rabbi says, or Rav Huna, we have to suspect there may be a possibility that maybe this is an act of kiddushin. And if she accepts kiddushin from a third party, tricha get min harishon. Since the first act that was done may be an act of kiddushin, she's not permitted to be with the second person. That's Rabbi Rav Huna. That's how Abai says. What you're saying is correct, and it's not refuted from the Mishnah, because the Mishnah is speaking about he originally married her. So we say the person, when he gives her the gift, al das kiddushin rishonim. He's sending the gifts to his wife, but here the man was never married to her. They agreed to marry. So they agreed now.
So there was no eros and
No marriage. Period. Nothing. They just agreed. She agreed. We're going to be married next week. Now, before next week, he sends her gifts. So we'd say it's possible that he wanted to expedite it, and therefore, when he sent it and when she received it, she accepted it for kiddushin. Therefore, it's a safim mukudeshes. Safim mukudeshes. That's where Rashi learns the case.
How do you know that you have to presume that the status quo that she agrees continues? It's fairly big presumption, right? You know that they do want to get married, but now you have to assume that that state of mind remains intact.
I mean, Tozer can ask a very strong question on Rashi. The Gemara said, we had the Gemara before in the Daf Beis, that two people are speaking about marriage. They're speaking about they're engaged, and they're speaking getting married, and then afterwards, after they speak about all marriage, he gives us something in the presence to witness. He doesn't say Amukadeshesli. So we say that as long as it's Ba'osa Inyon, since they're speaking about marriage, and within that context he gives us something, we say that's the equivalent of saying Harei Mukadeshesli. So Gemara says, what about, he spoke about marriage, same conversation, then they speak about something else. It's called Me'osa Inyan Ba'osa Inyan. And then afterwards, he gives us something. So minimally, it says, within that conversation, they had to discuss marriage. But let's say they discuss marriage now, there's a hiatus, and subsequently he gives us something. It seems to the Gemara, it's nothing. It's nothing. So if the Gemara says, unless you verbalize it, it's nothing. So how does Rashi said? Goes, Shidduch, since she originally agreed to marry him, and then he sends her these gifts, we have to be concerned, maybe her intent and his intent was for the sake of marriage. She accepted it as marriage. But over there, it's only Bosa Inyan, Asuk and Bosa Inyan. They're engaged in discussing Osa Inyan, discussing marriage. I mean, see, evidently Toast doesn't understand that way. He understands Asuk and Bosa Inyan, they're engaged to be married. Now they're talking about renting the apartment, furnishing the apartment, how the chuppah is going to take place. So they're ready, they're holding there. And then he gives her the ring in the presence to witness. And he says nothing to her. Doesn't say Aram Mikadeshesli. So because it's Asuk and Bosa Inyan, they're engaged in talking about marriage, it's as if he said Aram Mikadeshesli. But it seems to be, if it's not Asuk and Bosa Inyan, they're not engaged in discussing that subject matter at that moment, he gives her something means nothing. And Rashi says, because Shidech, of course, previously she agreed, even now, subsequently, a day later, a week later, he sends her gifts. Now we say the gifts are a marriage, for the sake of marriage. So therefore he rejects Rashi. Because how do you reconcile with the Gemara before in Daf Beis? That's Tos's question. No, but Rabbi differentiates. There it's because Aldas Kiddushin Rishonim. The first case because he believes he's married. Here, there was no previous marriage. That's how Abai differentiates. He says, Rabba, what you're saying is correct. You don't have to retract because of the Mishnah. The Mishnah is speaking about one case, you're speaking about another case. Okay? But Tosa says, but the way Rashi explains the case, it can't be. Because it's clear from the Gemara that unless they were discussing marriage at that moment, and then he gave it to her, within that context, he gave her the gift, then we say that gift is marriage. But if there's any hiatus, any interruption of time between that, then it's nothing. We don't, unless he actually verbalizes and explicitly says what he's giving for, it's nothing. Okay. When? Otherwise, it's poshut. That's asuk bosa inyon. It's vari mukudeshes. Here, there's a choshe l'kedushin. It's a sofik mukudeshes. It's vari mukudeshes. Okay. So we'll go a little further in the Gemara. I'll tell you. Tosis learns. Tosis learns that the Gemara says it depends on what the custom in the community is. Let's say the custom in the community is that people only send gifts to a woman, these kinds of gifts, only after they've been married. So not that the gift is the marriage. Giving the gift is not the act of marriage. The gift, giving this kind of gift, indicates that they were previously married. Okay? That's what the Gemara says. That even though the majority of the community only send these kinds of gifts if a marriage had previously taken place between these two individuals. Okay? Person sends the woman, let's say, a diamond bracelet. Or gold. Nobody gives a gold bracelet before the marriage. So if he's already giving this kind of gift, it's clear they're married. Or the probability they're married. So not that the actual gift is the marriage, but the gift reveals that they were previously married. That's Choshel Kedushin. Okay? So the Gemara is going to explain. There's a question in the Girsa. Let's say the majority give gifts before they're married, but there's a minority in the community that only give gifts after they're married, this kind of gift. So although we usually go after Rov, so if you go after Rov says we shouldn't be concerned, because the majority of people in the community, you give this kind of gift before the marriage, right? Not after the marriage. So giving this gift, we shouldn't be even suspected. It's an act of kiddushin. But since there's a minority who does, and since we're dealing with Eishes Ish, so because of the severity of Eishes Ish, we're machmir. Normally we don't go after the minority. But since we're speaking regarding Eishes Ish, that's where choshin.
But are you considering this gift the kiddushin?
No. The kiddushin happened previously. But since a minority of the community only send this gift only to a wife, so giving this gift tells us that they were previously married. Even though the majority give this kind of gift before they're married, but since there's a minority who gives it only afterwards, we can't take a chance because the deal with Eishes Ish. It's a chumrah d'Rabbanan. On a doraisa, it's a chumrah. Okay? No, they're not Eidim. There were Eidim that. No, there was a bona fide. We don't know what happened before. This act causes us to suspect something happened before. Okay? That's the way Tosas learns the case. Because of his question about Sukkah Bosa Inyan, that the only time by giving something and not saying Harim Mukdeshes is only if it's Asukah Bosa Inyan, where at that moment they were discussing marriage and he gave her something. Although he didn't say Harim Mukdeshesly. It's irrelevant what they said. It's Dvarm Shibalev. It's Dvarm Shibalev. If you said nothing, it's Dvarm Shibalev. If the act itself doesn't indicate anything, it doesn't mean anything.
But you can't go and interrogate?
Interrogate means nothing. It's Dvarm Shibalev Ein Dvarim. Let's say you see a man giving a woman something very valuable. You say, well, I have to suspect they're married? Definitely not. But if this kind of gift in the community is given only to a wife, then I have to suspect that they're married.
I'm just trying to probe the idea that we normally go after Rove.
So here the rove would be Lakula. The miyat is L'chumrab. So that's Tosa says. But since I'm dealing with Eishes Ish, which is a very serious area of relationship, Therefore, though it's a mir, it's a minority, a machmir. That's what Tosas explains. Okay? So if she, correct. No, because the second one, we know definitely did an act of marriage. It could go either way. The second one definitely did an act of marriage. The question, she may have been married. So if the first one gives the get, no. He'll have to do a new act of kiddushin. He'll have to marry her again. No, we don't know. If she's married to the first, but it could be he doesn't have to do another act of marriage. The way Tosa says, Rove says she's not married. It's only machmir because there's a miyut, because there's a minority. So once he gives her a get, he gives the first one, she received a get from the first husband or this questionable person. It's only a chumrah. The second man doesn't have to do another act of marriage because Rove says they're married. If they never cohabited, it's only if they cohabit it's a problem.
Even if it was a suffix marriage, it's a full law. So if the son of marriage, that second marriage, considered a marriage.
It's only chum d'rabbanan. We don't want the second husband to be with her because there's a minority. Right? So the first man, we say the first man gives her a get. So now the question is, does the second person have to remarry her? So I'm saying if the Rove says she was not married, probably not. Because we're only machmir because the chumrah says she's ish. But here, what are we talking about? Doing an act of kiddushin. It's irrelevant. But because there's a miyut, that only a person who's married gives this kind of gift, so I have reason to be concerned she may be married to the man. Because he may have, this gift is only given to a wife. It's not given to a woman who's not a wife. No, but Choshesh, there may have been kiddushin. It's irrelevant what you say. But your action indicates that she may be a wife. Because only a husband gives this kind of gift to a wife. It's like, two people, facetiously. They have an argument like you never saw before. A man and a woman. They say they must be married. Because if it's not his wife, you don't talk to a woman this way. Okay? So that itself tells you they're married. She says, go stand in front of the line. Okay. No, then it's over. No. You're right. He's a Kohen, then he has to give her a get too. Because the moment she gets a get from the first one, you're right, 100%. That we had in Yevomis, there's certain cases, it's over. We had other cases in Yevomis because if he's a Kohen, it's a Chumrah, so we're not machmir. There was one case, such a case. Okay? So that's Rabbah and Rav Huna, that the majority of people give the gift, this kind of gift before the marriage, but there's a minority, so they say Choshen l'kedushin. So the first person who sent the gift has to give a get. Okay? Igad the Amri. There's another version of this. Omer Rabba, Meno Aminolo. Rabba says, how do I know that Choshen l'kedushin? When you send the gift, you send the sivlon, it's kirtani taimo. As the Mishnah says, why in the Mishnah when you send the gift doesn't mean nothing? Shemachmas kedushin rishonim shalach. That the person, when he sends the gift after the marriage, whether he gave a penny to two women, or half a cent, or the minor, because he's sending it based on what previously happened, that there was a previous marriage. Hochu de toy. Right? We say he's making that mistake. Hobal mahabe kedushin, but in other circumstances, it is a kedushin. Kedushin means sofi kedushin. But Abai disagrees. Abai says, "Lo mi boy komer, lo mi boy ba'almod lo noches letoras kedushin klal." Under normal circumstances, it's not even a consideration that it's a marriage. Meaning, the majority of people, when they give a gift, it's always they give the gift before they're married. So it's not an indication of marriage. It's like an engagement gift. A person sends a gift to his fiancée. But maybe he will say, because they were previously married and the marriage was not valid, maybe now he's coming to correct what was done wrong earlier. It's not kedushin. So Abai is arguing with his Rebbe. Although Rabbah says Choshen l'kedushin, he says I learned just to the contrary. Where nothing previously happened, we say it's nothing. Because people send gifts to women or to their fiancé. It has nothing to do with marriage. But the Mishnah, I would say, since they were previously married, the marriage wasn't a valid marriage. And it's clear they want to be married, so now he's sending something of value for the sake of marriage. That the Mishnah tells us, no, it's Adas Kedusha Rishonim. Therefore, even in that case, they're not married. That what? You're asking Abaye or Rabbah? Abaye? No, Abaye is simple. No. If they were not married previously, now he sends her a gift. There's no indication. The majority of people, when they give gifts to their fiancé, not for the sake of marriage. So there it's understood they're not married. But over here, where marriage did take place, and it wasn't a valid marriage, maybe the person sending the gift to correct what didn't happen previously, they already went through an act of marriage. So they already supposedly went through the motions of being husband and wife. So therefore now the gift is a marriage. That's what more so you should say now it's a marriage. That the Mishnah says no, that's not the intent of the person, because since he values the original relationship, he's giving the gift as if he's already married to the woman. So it's a gift to a wife. That's what the Mishnah is saying. That's why the Mishnah has to tell me that. The first case, the Mishnah doesn't even have to discuss that case. That's understood, it's nothing. The majority of people, when they give gifts to a fiancé. That's understood, it's nothing. He's arguing with his Rebbe. So why does the Mishnah have to address this case? Because this case, the man went through an act of marriage. It turned out, because it was post-Misham Prut, it wasn't valid. So now there's reason to be concerned when he's sending the gift. It's to correct what it wasn't done the first time. The Mishnah says, no, that's not the intent, because the intent is because he thinks he's married. Therefore, it's also nothing. And he would verbalize that. How do you know he thinks? How do you know he thinks? How do you know that's why he's sending it? It's Dvarim Shebelev. If he says it, it's one thing. He didn't say anything here. The person did not say anything here. So it's a Dvarim Shebelev. After he says, well, that was my intent. So remember what your intent is. Since the...
How do you know that it wasn't a marriage, that he wanted to be...
No, that's a Dvarim Shebelev. That's a Dvarim Shebelev. If he verbalizes one thing, he didn't verbalize it. It's a but still Dvarim Shebelev. It's not an Anansad. We said earlier. Unless something is clearly defined without saying anything, it's Dvarim Shebelev. We don't reckon with it whatsoever. So my Havayalo, how do we rule? Do we rule like Rabban Rav Huna? Do we rule like Abaye? Is it Choshen l'kedushin? Not Choshen l'kedushin. Omer Rav Papa, Ba'asher de Mekachi v'od Mesavli. In a community where they first marry and then they send such gifts. Choshen. That's when you have to suspect. Why? Because if a woman receives this kind of gift in this community where people only send that kind of gift to a woman only if they've been previously married, so of course you have to be choshish for the kiddushin. Misavli v'odekachi. What about if people in the community, they give this kind of gift to a fiance, not to a wife? Lo chayshinon. There's no concern. There's no reason to be concerned. It's an act that they were previously married. Similar says, Mekachi v'od misavli pshita. You have to tell me that. Rav Papa said, if in the community the custom is you only send this kind of gift to a wife, she's married. It's understood. Lo tzricha. Now, what it means to say, the ruba mekachi v'od misavli. The majority of Tosas changes the gears here. The majority of the community, the way we have it, they're first married, only then they send the gift. Umiyuta misavli v'od mekachi. But there's a minority, they send the gift before, and then they marry. Ma'u the same in neichush lemiyuta. maybe you should think we should be concerned about the minority. Kamash malon. So the way that the Girsa reads is difficult. If you would take the minority into account, this is Lakula, not Lachumra. Here, this Girsa, the way it reads, the majority of first married only send the gift to a wife. You don't send this kind of gift to a woman who's not a wife. But there's a minority who sends this kind of gift even to a woman who's not your wife. So you may think you'll follow the minority. So following the minority means what? Lakula. Lakula, that she's not married. You understand? You have a Rov say she is married. You have a Mid say she's not married. So Tosas, whoever follows a minority, to be lenient. You want to be machmir to follow the minority is one thing. But to be lenient to follow a minority, definitely not. Well, Tosa says, we find some cases, but Tosa says it has difficulty equating this to that. So therefore Tosa says,
very rare. But second of all, why would you do it here?
if the majority of people give such give only to a wife, right? Why would I follow the minority to say she's permitted to remarry, and we treat her like a single woman? Therefore Tosa changes the girsa. The majority of people, they give this gift to a fiancé. But as a minority, they only give it to a wife. You may think we should follow the majority and say she's not married because it's Eishes Ish, the stringency of Eishes Ish. We follow the minority, and therefore she needs a get. Right? Therefore he changes the girsa. Boy minei ravacho barafuni mirabo. A stark suba. Okay, what is a stark suba? Stark suba is purely a monetary document. But this monetary document, when do you give this kind of document? Only if you're married. A person doesn't write a ksuba before he gets married. Okay? So we'll see. No, it's given under the chuppah. No, but when is it written? So we find a stark ksuba bashuk. A person finds a ksuba in the street. A substantiated document, certified document, it's not a forgery. So that means it's a bona fide marriage document. It has everything on it. So the question is, does that mean that they were married? Therefore, the woman, whoever's ksuba is, that means she's a married woman, although we don't know whether she's married or not. Or do we say no? That people could write this document before they go to the chuppah. So maybe the document was lost before the chuppah. Yeah, why not? Let's say it's the date. What? Doesn't mean anything. We'll see in a moment. You have an established, certified ksuba out in the market. I mean, just because it's a monetary document, how does that somehow confirm that we should change her status? She has a presumed status, she's single. So because you have a monetary document that says that he owes her so much money because it's his wife, how does that change her status? Yeah, but it can't infringe on her freedom. It can't infringe on her freedom. You understand? A man can write any document he wants. What he writes a document, and his document ties up her life. You know, a man wants to marry a woman, right? She doesn't want to marry him. You know what he does? No problem. He'll write up a ksuba, obligate himself to give her a ksuba, presents it to the court. She's my wife, right? Definitely, it's baseless, right? Omer Avashi, ba'asr mikachi v'odakasvi ksuba. It's a community. A ksuba is never written unless they first marry. The first marriage takes place, and then they give the ksuba. So, it's a monetary obligation. Let's say a borrower. He writes a document. He's borrowing money from so and so. Right? I am borrowing money from Shimon, $1,000. Witnesses, I know that. Now the borrower goes to the lender. He gives him the document. Right? So the document was written before he went to the lender. What happens? The lender says, "I'm not lending you." So if he's smart, he tears up the document. Because if you lose it, it's found. The lender could actually collect on that document. It's a bona fide, certified document. No. The witness they witness that the man is agreeable to obligate himself in whatever's written in that document, financially. No, definitely not. And that's what Gemara says. Just because you have witnesses, it's purely monetary. So if it's monetary, has that indicate that she's married? actually witnessed the ring being put on her finger.
Those are the
Yes, yes.
Otherwise, it's a one-way financial obligation.
Correct. Okay. People think it's such a covet, 80 kiddushin, 80 ksuba. He said, I just signed on a loan document for this other guy in the bank the other day, and I'm not able to sleep all night. Yeah, but that, this is a great honor. Okay. So Rav Ashi says we're speaking ba'asher de mekachi v'hodor kasvi ksuba. It's a community where they first marry, and only after the marriage takes place, only then do they write the ksuba. Chayshinon. So then you have to suspect, since you find this document, and it's a community where they only write this document only after the woman's married, so clearly it's reason for us to believe that she's married. Kasvi v'hoder mekachi. What about if it's a community they write the ksuba prior to being married? Lo chayshinon. Someone asks, mekachi v'hoder kasvi pshita. If it's a community where they only write the document only after they're married, you have to tell me choshel kiddushin. Pshita, it's understood. What's the chiddush? Lo tzricha again. Lo shchiach safra. We're speaking about a community they don't have a sofer. They don't have a local scribe. So if they don't have a local scribe, so it's difficult to have a ksuba. You have to call in a scribe at the wedding. So maybe what happened was Mao the same as Safru Disrami. That really they're not married. A sofa came from out of town. They said, we're planning to get married next week. Rather than waiting for a week, write the ksuba today and we'll use it next week. And these things happen. So if that's the case, do I take that into account? Do I say, look, the majority of people, the majority of the people, what do? They only write the ksuba afterwards, right? Mav safru disrami kamash malon. But again, we have the same difficulty here. This would be lakula for the woman. I mean, we have to change the girsa again. We have to change the girsa because of what's the chiddush. Here, you want to tell me you're going to follow the minority to be lenient that she's not married. We're speaking of community. The ksuba is only written after the marriage. But maybe it's possible, since the sofer was out of town, maybe a sofer had come, and he had written the ksuba before the marriage. So this is out of the ordinary. So if that's the case, there's no indication she's married. I mean, should I suspect a remote situation versus what's the norm? The norm is, in this community, the ksuba is never get written until after the marriage. So that would indicate that what? Tell me that she's married. But since it's possible this may have happened, therefore we should see her as not married. It's not a substantial. It's a bid l'kul. That's what Tos said before. If the rove is l'chumra and the meat's l'kul, especially regarding Geshes Ish, we're going to follow the minority? Definitely not.
When we say loan documents, if the lender loses the document, we have a presumption that he would not do such a thing because that's his proof.
He wouldn't be careless.
He wouldn't be careless. A woman doesn't lose her ketubah. If the man has to, or somebody finds it, why should I place any value on it? We have a presumption a woman won't lose her ketubah. She's the one who has to hold it. The same as the lender.
Okay. Now, therefore, we could say how much of a levaraya. Therefore, we say in this. First of all, we don't say that. We don't say that. We don't say that. If a person finds a document which is substantiated, and he gives proof that it's his document, you return the document to that person. We don't say that tells us that it must have been paid off. Right? We don't say that. If there's a dispute, let's say the document wasn't returned, not to the lender, not to the borrower, to neither, and the borrower says, I paid it, then we don't return the document. Because that the document was lost causes us to be concerned. The reason why the lender was careless was because it was no longer his document. And the borrower, he should have destroyed it. He didn't destroy it, so we really don't know. Burden of proof lies on the lender because he wants to extract money from the borrower. The document doesn't have its original viability, right? But over here, what are we going to say? You have a ksuba. You find it's her ksuba. So what does that say? The ksuba was paid off? Probably not. I mean, she says, I'm single. We're not talking about She's single, he's claiming, you're still my wife. But if you're single, why was the ksuba written? We're in a community where the ksuba is only written only if you're married. See, that discussion is, was it paid, was it not paid? That's the discussion. Here the discussion is, was she ever married to the man? If she was never married to the man, why was the ksuba written? If the majority of people only write a ksuba only after the marriage takes place. Otherwise, the scribe won't write the ksuba. Yeah, but the scribe would not write a ksuba, and Adam will not sign on a ksuba unless the marriage is taking place. Because today it's irrelevant. Today it's irrelevant, you know. Today we don't have the custom. We're speaking this particular case is in the context that happens to be the custom of the community. If the custom of the community would be the other way, then she's not. Okay, we have just a few minutes, especially to make up for yesterday. A few minutes.
The custom of the community is that the ketubah is only written either after or simultaneous with
The marriage.
Okay. Now we find the ketubah. Okay, and this woman wants to get remarried.
And she has no get.
She has no get.
And she claims she was never married to the man.
Never married. The man, she must have written the thing.
And he's not here. The man, let's say the man is not here. He's out of town.
What do we say?
We say, so since the majority of ksubas which are written only after the marriage, this tells us that she is married. She's a married woman.
She needs a get.
She would need a get. If she wants to marry another person, she needs to get from the husband. So if the husband's out of town, she has to wait. If the husband says, I never married her, let's say the husband, he concurs with, I never married her. You say, you know something? But we have a ksuba that tells us you did marry her. That tells us you did marry her, because the majority of people in this community will not write a ksuba unless the marriage took place. So it gives... How do you bring witnesses that they were never married? Unless witness, let's see the date on documents, what he says, for the past 3 years we've been together, and it had to take place during that period of time. That's the only witnesses that would be proof. There's a date on document. If they invalidate the document, if they themselves, if they wrote an illegal document, it's the end of the Meis Matzah Russia. The Gemara says it's a Mishnah, they're not believed. To say they wrote a faulty document.
If it's inconsistent, sometimes people write it before, sometimes people write it before.
But that's not our case. We're speaking about the majority of people in this community only write it after the marriage.
If it were the other case,
No, then it wouldn't be, we wouldn't. Let's if it's a 50-50. No, it's a suffix, also suffix.
suffix and you go through and you get.
Yeah, but let's say the majority would be the other way, then you would not need a get.
You would not need a get.
Right. To be continued.